following presentation is part of the Beyond the Blast Doors network.
Guest host Scotty Jayro. Hey everybody, it's Pete and Scotty from the Bombadcast. Scotty, how are you, man?
Dude, I'm feeling fantastic. I'm so glad to be on streaming Star Wars. And I saw it said, and look, wow, we had twins. I saw it said ammo on there. I'm like, who is that? It should say Jayro under.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
If I didn't fall asleep with my afternoon nap, you know, when you're almost 50 years old, like I am, you need to nap before you do these things. I would have changed it, but appreciate
you need to nap before you do.
Oh. Well, I don't normally need to nap. We were talking about it just before we got on, and I've been for the first time in my life, I'm doing like barnyard labor. My kids have somehow talked me into we're gonna get goats, and we're building a fence, and it just I don't know.
Sounds like it's gonna be all you. It just seems like it's just right. Not gonna be them.
In principle, it sounds great, right? The kids will go and they'll take care of the goats and they'll learn stuff.
You know, Pete's always looking fresh with the Under Armour shirts or whatever he's got going on. But it's gonna sooner or later, Pete's gonna join up like with a flannel and like smoking a cigarette and just steady talking. He's gonna look like Rural Farm Boy. Like, he's just gonna obtain it.
Right. I'm gonna show up like I'm gonna have a cat hat on and just it's no longer gonna be streaming Star Wars, it's gonna be streaming goats, and that's gonna be it. But so unfortunately we don't have Ammo tonight. Ammo is having family, and you know he's a recently married guy. He's got to deal with
he's busy
in-laws coming over and stuff.
Too much work,
too much to do. But
yeah, for real.
We're gonna do another one of the rewatches this week. So if you're watching and you want to take a couple minutes before we get to it, make sure to have your
Baby Yoda ready.
Your Baby Yoda has to be ready. I mean, you can see Scotty and I have dueling
sitting there the whole
Baby
time.
Yodas. Yeah, so
Baby Yodas. The duel of the Yodas.
Well, you know, there's of course maybe he's a clone, so maybe these are all over the place. We don't know. But so have your Disney Plus ready, and we'll do a countdown like we did last week, and we'll just watch it. And if you're looking for last week's rewatch,
it's gone.
It's gone. Within minutes of it actually being up, Disney said, I think you showed way too much footage. My plan was to just kind of pop up a couple seconds here and there, but
sure,
I'm not that close on it. So Scotty, tell me what's happening with Bombadcast. How you guys doing?
We took a brief hiatus, like a 2-week hiatus, and it was honestly really nice because I think Jerry and I both needed it, but it was also really nice because of everything going on in the world. And so we took a 2-week hiatus and actually lined up perfectly with our 50th episode. And not only that, there we go. Pete's so good at this. Our 50th episode, but it's also our 1-year anniversary. And we've gotten messages from like 12 people so far, and I'm hoping we get some more by Sunday because that's when we record it, and we are so stoked. It's going to be awesome. It's a big kind of a comeback for us too because of the hiatus, you know. Man, things have been good for Bombadcast. We're really looking forward. We got some good things in the works.
That's
as
cool.
Always.
That's great. Yeah. And it's been so wild that the network thing has been going on. And I'll tell you what, it's been fun hanging out with everybody and getting to know everybody better. And it's been great for streaming Star Wars because we've been able to pluck the occasional guest host like yourself.
But David got married, so you had to find someone that night. And then
if David's planning on getting married, we need to start a network because I'm going to need some help.
Yes, we need 7 more people to get this job done. Oh man, that's awesome. But it works out, I talked to, for anyone that's listening, we got some great people in the chat too. We got Rez, 2Med2. Oh, they're all saying Scotty. Got Jerry in here. I will say it's so much fun being able to just hang out and talk with y'all and just like figure everything else out going on in this world, and what we're doing with our network is incredible. I'm very fortunate. It's so awesome to do this.
We are having so much
and
fun.
I think the listeners will say the same as well. I know they're happy. So. Galpatine, that was a great episode, by the way.
That was so
the whole
funny.
Galpatine thing was hilarious.
Listen to the Hollow Chronicles. So cool. So before we get to the rewatch, let's jump into some news and rumors.
Yes,
it's interesting. It feels like every week, and it feels like maybe Disney is paying attention to our show, because seems like every Friday there's something that comes up simply hours before we go.
Seriously,
so
it's it's insane.
And I don't know how I feel about it. So we're the one thing that hit today. And it came from our friends over at streaming. We're streaming
Star Wars Newsnet. Star Wars Newsnet. I got you, Pete.
Yeah. Johnny Hoey dropped some spoiler heavy stuff. So if you don't want any spoilers on season 2, and it's not, of course, nothing is confirmed, but there was some more detail on Rosario Dawson coming to the show as Ahsoka. So I'll give you a little blank moment to either pause or move on, and can then come back in a minute before we talk about what they found. But if the spoilers, or if the report is to believed, it's going to be a little bit more than just a cameo. What have you seen on it, Scotty?
Well, it's one of these things. Recently, we've had so many things come out about this person, and Mandalorian season 2, which makes sense. The casting rumors all just make a lot more sense. But to have story detail is very interesting. And they're claiming, not just Star Wars News, and I imagine they got it from a reliable source. Yeah. But it's been stated that it's going to be way more than a cameo. It's going to be a good bit of this character, Ahsoka returning, which means in my head I'm thinking, well, you got the whole canon timeline, so you know who she's with and you know who they're looking for. So just saying, it's weird, and they might even be looking for this person right here too, to a certain extent, which could get really interesting. This is such new territory, and one of the biggest confirmations is that she will be wielding one of her lightsabers. We don't know, but it's kind of weird, because you got to think with who plays Moff Gideon, Pete.
Giancarlo Esposito.
Yes. Okay. He said he's been doing a lot more work. He's broken several props with the lightsaber, with the dark saber. So I'm like, oh my God, I feel like we are going to get something I never expected with this show was this dude, and then a lightsaber duel. So I don't know. We'll see.
It's one of the really cool things about the Mandalorian, and I think I had a conversation I was on with the boys at Tatooine Sons, and we were talking a little bit on their show last week about what does it mean to be a Star Wars program, movie, film, show, whatever. And they're definitely, I said I don't have any inside information, but I believe there's got to be some rule somewhere that says at some point in the show or movie a lightsaber has to show up. And I used to say that sort of joking around, but the more I look at it, the more I really believe that seems to be the case, because Moff Gideon ends the series with it. We're gonna talk about episode 2 in a couple minutes of Mandalorian Rewatch It, but that was where the Force made its debut in this show, and so I can definitely see Ahsoka having to whip out at least one lightsaber, maybe 2, and take on Moff Gideon, trying to get that dark saber back. So that would be pretty wild stuff. So
it's just like you've got so much to work with when it comes to Mandalorian, new and old. So I think we're gonna get a happy combination of both something really new and something really old in terms of what we're used to at Star Wars. That's kind of how they approach this episode of The Gallery too, which we'll get into later. But it's very interesting.
Yep. And it was pretty cool too. There's been some thought that maybe some of these other characters are flashback characters, and that's possible too. If Ahsoka shows up and tells a story to the Mandalorian about the darksaber or something, that could be
it would work. That could work.
That would be cool.
Yeah,
cool. I'm glad
it's super. Oh, sorry, Pete.
No, please continue.
No, I was gonna say it's so odd that this stuff is leaking and like it's so crazy. Like the one thing I always think about the Mandalorian is how did this not leak? You know, and now we're getting nothing but leaks. I just think it's odd, but we'll see. We'll see.
It is, which means which I'm hoping for me at this point is I'm really hopeful that this means that they are that there's so much, either whether it's a fantastic unexpected story or other things that are part of the part of it that we're going to see. But I'm glad I'm glad you brought up gallery, because I almost forgot to talk about that. And it's the shortest of all the gallery episodes, but it's so far, I think it's one of my favorites. And it's cool that you're on the show with me tonight, because we're both sort of wannabe musicians and to watch I always screw up his name. How do I say his name? It's
Ludwig. Oh, come on now, but shame on us. I can't say. I don't want to mess it up.
Goranson or something. Ludwig.
Goran. I think that's it. It.
But today's episode was all about music, which I was really excited about.
Yes,
and
I didn't expect this episode, to be honest. I thought this next one would be concept art. That's what I was convinced, because they showed so much of it. But like, the score is just it's so good.
Yeah,
well, it's so good.
It's funny because I think even if you go back to some older episodes of even streaming Star Wars, David and I were both kind of a little bit hesitant and a little not huge fans necessarily of the soundtrack. But now I absolutely love everything about it. And it's
amazing.
It's one of the soundtracks I love just putting on and listening to in the car. And and just to see his approach was really cool. And I don't know, maybe it's, again, this feels like I keep referencing my age, but I feel like he looks and feels really young, which I think is bringing something really cool to the sound.
The whole time I'm looking at him, and the way it was shot too, very interesting. It was shot. Okay, I have kind of a hypothesis on this, but I can get to it later. It was shot kind of like a vlog, you know. And I have a feeling this collection, the gallery, I don't know if it was supposed to release as soon as it did. I think Disney thought maybe the COVID stuff was a good time to take advantage of it. People will watch this. People are at home, and right now that episode was shot way different than the ones we got before, because it was almost like a vlog. It was just him for a while, and then it would cut to, you know, him and Dave and Pete. Wow. Him, Dave, and John. Whoa. We're sitting at that table, but it was a semi table. It was not, it didn't feel the same. So
it definitely maybe this one was an add-on episode of some sort. Yeah.
Yes. And it was short. It was interesting. I feel like this one might have been an unplanned one, and it was smart. And you know, they had footage of stuff from when they scored it and everything, which was amazing. But like his approach is so great. It's one of those. It's so bad, Pete. I know you know this feeling. It was one of those, you watched it and you're like, well, I'm gonna go make music. Like literally, exactly. I was at work and I was like, because his approach is so simple. He like one instrument at a time, then he figures out the layering, and then he composes all of it, then he blends. I'm like, this is how I want to do it, because he knows the way. Because you think of John Williams and you're like, the only approach to John Williams is like mastery. Like I could never compose a John Williams song, but when you watched him do it, you're like, oh, he just played a little riff there, then he went and sat at the piano, made a little riff up there in the same key. Oh, it's great. Oh, it's killer.
Yeah, it was
it's so good.
It was cool too to see first of all, we kind of knew there was experimentation with the instruments that he used, but I think one of the reasons it sounds the way it does is because he composed on guitar in a lot of cases, which forces you to create. You're not creating a big sweeping orchestration. You add that later, but you sort of, it's a soundtrack that's more based on riffs than anything else. So
it's so different. And the coolest part, and I know you'll like this because we're both, for people that don't play music, there's things called gearheads, kind of like someone who is with a vehicle. And that's same with people that work on cars. But like for musicians or guitarists and bassists in particular, like you've got all these effects pedals that will change the sound of your guitar and everything, you know, through your amplifier. But he had this thing, and I know, Pete, you're probably like, what is that? That Roland synth?
From the
that
70s?
Was what? I've never seen that before. I'm like, that is like, and the noise it made, I'm like, this is wild.
Yeah.
Oh, it was so good.
It was a really good episode. And it was really fun to watch, to sort of see where he came from. And it was cool too. There was a reverence for John Williams, but there was sort of like you definitely got the sense, even I think it was even more from John, and I think I want to watch it again and just sort of watch Filoni's reaction, because John was kind of like, yeah, we didn't really want the John Williams thing, and because Kevin Kiner, of course, we talk about here on Streaming Star Wars all the time, how Kevin Kiner's music for Clone Wars is so reminiscent and sort of derivative and sort of almost pays homage to a lot of the John Williams stuff. Whereas the stuff that was done here was very just sort of was like, yeah, that's good to know that that's the world we live in, but we're going to bring something completely else to it.
It's the part where the orchestra comes in, the da 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 da. That part is so John Williams, but everything leading up to it, it hooks you, and you're like, this is so new, this is so different. And like you said, Pete, my stepdad, we talked immediately after the Mando first dropped, and he was like, I hated the music. I am not a fan. And that's a great comment, by the way. That is true. It does have that same energy for real. But it's funny because it took me maybe the first episode till I was like, I don't know. And then kind of rewatching that first episode and how it ended with everything, I'm just like, yeah, that sold. Instantly sold. It was so organic to how he approached it. He was like, I locked myself in this studio for a month and just figured everything out. And I'm like, I love that.
Yeah. And
I love that.
What was cool too is I felt was like it was it almost has, it was good to see that it was so organic, because I was thinking, because it's got a lot of electronic stuff going on, and in a way it almost sounded like a Nine Inch Nails soundtrack.
Yes, it does. It does.
The Facebook movie and that sort of thing. But it wasn't. I mean, he built it in, on a nylon string guitar, and he built it with, this and that. So it was really cool. It was a fun.
That one guitar he played, by the way, I don't know if that guitar was made for that Roland thing, but that guitar was sick with all the knobs on it.
7 or 8 knobs, and
I was like, what is this? What is it even for? Yeah, no, Pete, I think it's just. It was a really sweet episode, and 22 minutes was the perfect time for that. I don't think you could have gone on much more. And I guess to maybe wrap this little conversation up, the coolest part, this is like, and you know this whenever you show music to your bandmates, but when they showed the music to Jon Favreau and Bryce Dallas Howard was there and Dave was there, I was like, oh, that's a big moment for anyone, And he's like, this is it. And they're all like, yep, this is it. I'm like, oh.
Yep.
That's what every musician wants to hear. This is it.
Yeah, but when you show music to your bandmates, you're like,
oh, it's nerve-wracking.
90% of your brain is like, they're gonna hate it.
They're gonna hate it. I already hate it.
right. And as a musician, by the time you've finished writing it, you're like, this is the worst thing I've ever written.
This is the worst. I hate this.
Oh, that's funny.
Dude, I feel that, like, the Bombad cast theme was one of the ones I made. I'm like, you know what? Let's just see. And then Jerry's like, this is perfect for us. I'm like, oh, okay.
I'll take it.
There it is.
Yeah. I felt the same way. So the piece of music that opens streaming Star Wars now, now that we're in, now that we're on YouTube, I had to choose a piece of music. First of all, the music that we used to use, we used it for one episode, and it was my own music, which is actually it's been published, and YouTube is blocking it, and I'm trying to work through my publisher to pull it back, which is ridiculous. So this is a piece that I had written a long time ago and never did anything with it. So it's a little rougher than I would have liked, but it works for the show, so whatever.
See, you can't beat it.
It works.
Yeah,
so,
it works.
Rick
That's great.
is saying ammo looks different. I'm a little bit confused.
He's better looking.
Right. 1 week of marriage, and he's got a full sort of 70s mustache, and he's wearing a Bombad shirt. No, we have, for those of you who are just dropping back in now, we do have a special guest host, the lovely and talented Scotty Jayro from the Bombad cast.
Thank you.
We had David had some other obligations this evening that he wanted to take care of, and Scotty generously said, hey, I'm not doing anything on a Friday night, so
Exactly. That's literally how it went. I'm like, I'm just bored. And Pete's like, are you bored? And I said, yeah, man, I'm bored. He's like, let's go be bored together.
let's
I'm
go
like,
be
all
bored
right,
together, and let's be
let's
bored
do
with
it.
these folks. So if everybody's got their Disney Plus app open, or however you're gonna watch it, whether you're on your TV, I know Scotty's got his iPad in front of him.
It's literally like a little kid. I'm going to have you in one ear and I'm going to have the headphones on in the other. It's going to look ridiculous, but it's going to work.
So I'll wait till I see somebody in the chat tell us that they are ready to go, and then we'll do a little 3, 2, 1 countdown. We'll all hit play at the same time. Now, for those of you, I was saying it before, we showed too much actual video last week, so you'll see some screen grabs, but you will not see any video from this week's episode. We're just going to run it and talk about it. And hopefully, we're all in approximately the same place. The great thing about a rewatch is most of us have already seen it. If this
Definitely
is
seen
your first time,
this.
if this is your first time watching it, this is probably not the best way to enjoy the Mandalorian for the first time. So
Could you imagine?
I'm
That'd be
watching it to these
ridiculous.
guys. So all right, Framey says they're ready. So I'm gonna give are you ready, Scotty? If I
Yep, I got it up.
play? All right, I'm gonna give you a 3. Now we're gonna start from the very beginning. We're gonna have to watch the previous week intro, and we're gonna just go straight through. So in 3, 2, 1, roll it. All right, cool. All right, so we got the little Disney logo going.
Yep.
And the previously on the Mandalorian. So I always find it interesting when streaming shows do the previously on.
Yeah, that was a cool approach. Yeah. I didn't expect this with Star Wars stuff. Usually it's like Star Wars has always been about like, oh, you got to keep up with us. You know, that's just how they've been.
Right.
It's weird.
Yeah. I guess maybe without an opening crawl, this is the closest that
through.
So,
and they didn't want to do the Tom Kane last week, you know. It's so weird, Pete.
Galaxy. Yeah.
When you first watched this, did you expect the last one to end the way it did at all?
Episode 1?
Yeah.
No, I still say it's the most shocking and one of the I'm so glad it wasn't leaked. So many great things have been leaked, and that's one of the things that I'm glad wasn't. The other thing that I loved was this new Star Wars logo thing that they had open, and this is when I knew this gave me chills, just because I was like, the first time I saw it, I was like, I don't even know what those things were that I just saw.
Sure,
I don't know who's, but I'm kind of a slightly stylized Star Wars logo, which is cool.
It is. And this opening, dude, to think that this is the volume is so insane. Like when you look at this now, like think about, with the whole recent episode of, the gallery.
Yep.
How cool is this?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And then, and I just loved just the whole thing with the just the pod that floated like this was beautiful.
It's perfect.
And
it's perfect.
It really was. And
and this was the one that dropped that Friday after the first one dropped, and like,
correct.
Of course, I watched it at 5 a.m. I'm like, you can't. Yeah, it's this scene right here, as you can see on the screen.
Yep.
And it's so unbelievable that we got Baby Yoda out of this in general, and the lizards following him. Oh my God, it's so cool.
And I love that sort of again, now that you watch it again, you realize that the lizards are they drawn to the Force? Are they they're not attacking, they're kind of following.
They're curious.
And then I love this
part's huge.
If you watch the helmet, you can actually see, and that's from the volume, right? They can
right here.
Right here.
Oh,
there they go.
So that's insane.
Yeah.
That would have been so hard to do in post, I'd imagine. I couldn't even. And it's funny, like you see him with the red suit now. I'm so used to him with the full Beskar.
Yeah. Yep.
How different were these Trandoshans? They look kind of Star Trek-y, if I'm going to be honest with you. They look a little different.
Well, in fact, the Trandoshans and the blue guy in the first episode, I was a little bit worried that the way they were going to look.
Kind of off, I'm so used to Bosk, and like even in Clone Wars, Bosk had a very specific lizard look. These people have a little bit more of a humanoid face, Yep.
Well,
dude, Mando's kicking butt. It's amazing.
Notice
integrations, Pete. Notice how great is that?
That was fantastic because now it all made sense, right?
Yeah. Oh, I forgot it introduced that they all have the tracking fob too, which is really interesting.
Yep.
Because that doesn't really get touched on again until the next episode, right? It's kind of established here.
Yep.
Wow. So good. It builds so well.
And
Jeez.
such a great opening.
The child.
So then
I know.
So we go into the scene here where they're spending some time together.
Yep.
And this is where this is actually our first indication that
Yep.
that the child can use the Force to heal.
Force. Yes.
Right? Because as we watch here, we see the child himself kind of, or herself, but probably himself. And this, what was fantastic about this too, to me, I'll come back to that healing thing in a second, but
sure,
he's clearly a puppet, but we love it.
So convincing. Right? It's so it's unreal. Like, I remember watching this with my girlfriend, and we were literally just like blown away by this whole moment. Like, look at that.
Yeah,
he's like straining. I'm like, oh, how?
Yep. And what's cool is, and again, it sort of sets that tone around the Star Wars galaxy where the Force is still kind of either been forgotten about or whatever. And he doesn't even stop to think that maybe the child is trying to help him. He's like, put it away. And again, and one of the things that we lose track of as now having, been so attached to this goofy little thing that there's no attachment yet. It's just this is just the quarry, the bounty, the job.
Legit. This shot right here, by the way, the one where the Mando's looking down at him, I forget, but it's paralleled in the last episode when Din Djarin as a little kid is looking up at the Mandalorian for the first time.
That's right.
Yeah, isn't that cool?
That's so cool.
Look at this shot. This is so Western, and the music is so Western.
Yep. Oh, Framey picked up the Trandoshans look like Gorns from Star Trek. That's what it was.
Oh, that's a good point. I wonder. A crossover? No. This is great right here. How amazing was this? When I first saw it, I was blown away. The fact that he's just like, nah, we're killing these little rats. They destroyed his ship. Oh my God.
And then again, more disintegrations. Pam, there they go. Boom.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Look at him. It's like, and it's funny because Jawas are one of those things that are very, very A New Hope. And that's about it for a while. Yeah. And of course you get, Attack of the Clones and the Phantom Menace kind of have some stuff. But like in particular, this is amazing, And it's funny, I forget, Jawas are actually seen as well in Rise of Skywalker too. I forget that. It's right at the very end.
Oh,
they got a sequel trilogy now.
Yep.
That's crazy.
And they the red eyes I thought was cool, and and this whole thing, this is 100% Indiana Jones. This entire Sandcrawler scene is Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yep.
In the desert. I mean, even to the point where the scene coming up where they try to scrape him against the wall.
Yep. Pete, you'll agree with me on this one. In Star Wars for the past 30 years, bounty hunting has been seen as something that, or 40, I guess, has been seen as something that's been kind of, it seems a little luxurious, Doesn't seem like you get down and dirty. This is the first time as a Star Wars fan I was ever been able to see this, like, man, that's a terrible job. Like, look what he's having to go through. His ship is scrapped. He's like on the side of a sandcrawler. These Jawas are awful to him. And it's just like, I don't know. I never thought about it not being luxurious or cool, but this is not cool. This is awful.
What I also love about it is the fact that the Jawas, to use the word scrappy, just sounds like I'm looking for a pun. But what I love about it is they're literally throwing the kitchen sink at them. They're throwing whatever they happen to grab, and the Jawas are kind of fun. Like they're annoying, but they're fun.
Well, it's interesting because when Rick Famuyiwa probably had to make this is like one of the most challenging scenes to do because I'd imagine the script is descriptive, but like, I don't know, like, how do you make this exciting? Because you're right, it's very Indiana Jones. It's not. It's just like these noises are incredible. By the way, they're like down, like it's so ridiculous. But yeah, like This is the most, and you said this earlier, Pete, before we started talking. There is barely any dialogue in this episode except for when Queel is on the show.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep. And what I like, what I really enjoyed about both this episode and the previous episode, and kind of in multiple places, is the fact that he loses, right? Like he's fallible, and and I mean he got. I think everybody sort of watching this was kind of like, oh, he's going to beat the Jawas. He'll get what he needs, and then he'll get out. But nope, he got his butt kicked by Jawas.
It's amazing.
I think that's really very cool.
It's so beautifully done too. Like this is the first, I guess, both of their first impressions of each other.
Yep.
And you don't think about, like you feel bad for Din Djarin right here. Like you really do. Like you're watching this and you're like, dang, I don't know what this is like. And he goes back to his ship. Yeah, there we go, right over here. And it's just taken completely apart.
It's all over. And you know what I find interesting too is, and all his guns are gone, and he's pissed. Like he's really
yes, he's mad.
You get that. But what I think is cool too for me is, and I think this may have an effect long term, is the first thing the child sees from this guy is he fights the Trandoshans, he fights the Jawas.
Yep.
He's like, he resorts to violence on everything. And it's having a kid myself, you look at that and you're like, even if they're watching violence on TV, you're like, oh, that's I don't know if that's kind of the impression you want them to be learning from. But
it's interesting because it's like, and also with that, he's kind of at his lowest moment. Of course, it's only episode 2, but by Jawas, you're right. How do they live that down? But yeah, it's at his lowest moment. Like it's such a weird thing. When I was watching this episode, I was not expecting this. And he's pretty defeated right here, and he's about to have to go find the Ugnaught that helped him.
Yep.
But it's pretty captivating. It was this is a lot where the screen, the poster, this shot right here, I think, or it's the next one. Yep. Yeah. The poster shot, Yep.
And again,
so impressive.
Amazing. I definitely thought that they went in and they went to the somewhere in the desert and they actually shot it, but no, it was
nope.
It's the volume.
It's crazy, man.
And then he has to go back to Queel, and Queel is just like, yeah, whatever. I knew you'd be back in a way. And
the frog obsession. I forgot about the frog.
I can't believe that this was in this episode. It's one of those things that's just something we take for granted. That and that's so Star Wars, right? Is that all the things that? So I mean, this came out in November, right?
I know, right?
It feels like it's been a part of Star Wars lore forever now. The child.
This was
the frog.
But like by the day this aired, Pete, I'm pretty sure Baby Yoda had just started getting posted on Facebook. Like I remember it vividly because I had a friend of mine. I wouldn't even call him a friend. He was some moron I was friends with on Facebook. Straight up spoiled it the night of. He took a picture of his TV. He's like, y'all need to watch The Mandalorian of Baby Yoda. I'm like, dude, don't spoil that for anyone. That's pretty messed up. But dude, I'm not kidding. By that weekend, and my dad doesn't watch much Star Wars unless I'm making him watch it, he was texting me how much he liked the show. And I was like, dang, it's going to catch on like wildfire. And I'm getting chills talking about it because to me, this was the episode that kind of cemented the Baby Yoda factor. They did really well with painting the picture of this character and what this show is going to end up being about, which is so cool. It kind of laid the groundwork of the whole bounty hunters going after them. It's great.
Yep. And I think what was cool too was, again, it was bringing this world to life in a way that I don't think I certainly didn't expect.
God, no.
Didn't expect to be seeing Jawas and a Baby Yoda and the Force and all.
Oh my God, it's the kind of the one that almost changes the plot of the whole show, and in regards to what we thought and what Celebration showed us too. Nothing of this. They showed the Jawas, and that was about it. They didn't show anything with Baby Yoda.
Well, the funny thing
How great is this part?
I love the Jawas looking out like it's It's like laughing. I don't know if you remember. You probably don't remember laughing, but that's a joke again. I'm not doing shows with you anymore because I'm feeling like all I'm talking about is how old I am. But
Always, man, that's great.
But
the baby of the BTB crew.
But this is, Kuil is the Obi-Wan of this show. He's the
I know, right? Wow, good point.
He's the giving the advice. And what's interesting is that the Mandalorian listens to him. He tells him to put his guns down. He listens to him, and he trusts very easily. And I think that may be something that hurts the Mandalorian long term.
True. Well, we'll find that out later, probably.
Yep. I like this.
I love this. It's Pete. I never thought we'd get new Jawa dialogue ever, and like this is incredible. Like it's such good sound bits.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right. They didn't just pull what was there before.
Yeah. You speak like
you sound
the flamethrower. It's amazing.
But again, Kuil tells him to stop, and he does. And I mean, he was sitting there. He could have crisped all of them. And what I also love is just the baby just watching the whole thing.
Yep.
Just soaking it all in, not running, not doing anything. Just how weird was this part? This part is so Star Wars, though. Suka, like it's so bizarre. The egg, and then they're in the sandcrawler. How cool! Hey, A New Hope parallel right there. That shot of the sandcrawler going down. Absolutely. And awesome. Look, we've lived since 1977 wanting to see a cockpit of a sandcrawler, and we got
it. We got it, and it's tiny. Oh, it's just so cool because I mean, of course, CGI has come a long way, but I mean, if no one would have told me that was CGI, I would have thought that was an actual model too. Absolutely. Which it could have been. We don't know that yet. It really could have been. I mean, come on, Star Wars. They're pulling all the tools out now. Look how crazy this is.
Again, the freaking volume has
no
everything.
How cool was this moment though? I didn't know what to expect with this. I'm pretty sure there had been maybe a trailer with the Mudhorn in it, but like
I don't know. I don't really remember seeing anything with the Mudhorn in it, and so and it may have been in there, but I didn't recall seeing. Oh yes, no, I do recall seeing it. You're right. It was the second trailer, and I do remember talking a little bit about it. Yep.
Oh, this shot of the sun coming. Oh, it's so wicked cool.
The sunlight shines underneath the helmet like that. Yeah.
This episode had a lot to do, and it was funny because really, in terms of plot, it's not that heavy. But like you said, the lack of dialogue is really what drives this episode. And you don't really have to. I mean, of course, you can deeply analyze anything, and that's just Star Wars. But like this one's pretty straightforward. I mean, it's nothing really that heavy. No canon craziness like the next one coming up was like, all the Mandalorians are stuck under there for a certain reason. We don't know why. This one's just kind of. It's great. And people didn't know what, Pete. I don't know if you remember this, but some people kind of had a gripe with this episode when it first came out, but I don't know why. I don't understand why, because when I first watched it, I knew it was very important, especially what happens in the next like 5 minutes.
Yeah. And I don't know. I'm going to be that guy. I don't know how anybody could have a problem with this episode, because if you've gone on to become a Baby Yoda fan, and who hasn't, this is, while as much of this is watching Din and as sort of learn. Oh, there's the eyeball open. But it's as much of it is about him. It's also about the child, like trying to figure out what he's all about and
what's his role.
He gives two major Force moments in this episode.
Oh, it's
which
amazing.
Again, it changes what
this whole show
changes. It makes this a Star Wars show. That's right. I think one of the reasons people had an issue with this episode, to me, is this episode is a video game, right? This is
you're right, dude.
This is
wow.
you start actually the first 2 episodes were video games. Here's your mission. You've been given your mission. Go climb the mountain, fight the knight, do the thing, do that.
Uh-huh.
And that's exactly what this is. This one is pure video game.
Yep.
Every video game has you as your character. You run into some problem, and then you
Yep.
have to go and
Deal with it.
solve another mission. And it's
Uh-huh.
usually something pretty silly. Go, mail the, go deliver this package to this person, and we'll give you that. And again,
Yep.
here's Baby Yoda watching the Mando fight, and
Getting dragged to the mud.
watching literally dragged through the mud. That's right,
Dude, you're right. Wow, that's hilarious. No, it's crazy though, Pete. You're watching this and like the whole time I'm thinking how he's going to get out of this. He's getting his tail whipped, like for real. And do the music right here.
Yep.
This is such a different thing for Star Wars. The like blur shot. Oh, it's so cool.
I'm glad you brought the music up. If you listen to this particular song in the soundtrack, part of the sound of the mud horn is the music.
Yep.
Which is really interesting to me.
Like John Williams did that with Attack of the Clones. When one of the speeders go by, I think you probably remember this, Pete. There's a whammy bar noise, literally from a guitar. That is the noise of the speeder going. It's like, yep.
That's right.
Okay, right, dude. Right here is when I stood up and like,
I was like, "What am I gonna see here?" And then when, he gets him, and it just,
I might tear up, man. This is so awesome. Look at this.
He can't believe what he's seeing. And I love that he doesn't just go with it. He's like, "What? Wait a second.
What?"
What?"
And he looks over. And dude, look at little man. Pete. The music.
Yep. And I love that he's just completely covered in mud.
Uh-huh.
And the child is like, "Would you just do something about it already?" And
it's so good.
Yeah. Oh,
the vibroblade. I mean, it's like the whole thing is just so unexpected. Like I stood up. I remember watching it for the first time being like, what? I did not. It took everything I thought about this show and was like, nope.
Yep.
Nope. That's not what you expect.
Not what I thought it was going to be at all.
And that's what a good TV show does, man. And like, I've got a good friend of mine, John, who's working on his very own show that he got it funded, crowdfunded and everything to get started on. It's a fantasy show. And like, he's told me several times, like the first episode of any show has to have 2 really good twists, and I think I agree with that. Like it just does.
Yeah.
You got to have a preconceived idea, and then you got to have the creator just be like, beep, for you to be hooked.
That's true. That's really interesting. And I hadn't thought about that. Yeah. Like a sitcom, you're going to get, here's the comedic actors and we expect to see them doing their thing. But in this case, you need to be surprised. And I guess that the risk that worked here for Mandalorian is it was a risk that we were all willing to go along with, right? Like
easy.
If this, I can't even think of a twist that we wouldn't have gone along with. But
that's the thing. Like I think next season's twist is not going to be Ahsoka. I really think it's going to be something just huge, and we're like, what? Like.
Yep.
Yeah. Maybe more Baby Yodas. I mean, I don't even know. It would just got to be insane.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's so cool because the music. Listen to this.
Yeah, and I love the way he's just sort of barely making it over the hill. He looks like
destroyed. He's been wrecked.
Yeah,
and like this part right here is so weird. Star Wars. It's like Bombad cast. Like it just like. This is what we love about Star Wars. Yep. Suka.
Yeah.
Suka. It's funny in high school, Pete, people used to call me Sugar because that's I would say that, like a stupid teenager would. And it's like sugar this, sugar that. And like, I want a Cadbury egg. Oh. And when they said Suka, I kept laughing at it because it just sounds like sugar. Look at this. Look at this. Oh.
It does look good. I mean, in a weird way. It looks
they make it. I love the presentation though. Suka.
And what is so cool about it too, and he just shakes his head because that's what we're all thinking. We're like, wait a minute. Wait, and again, that's what makes this a video game. It's this dumb mission. Really, like you want an egg from the Mudhorn. something
Yes.
that they probably believe there's no way he's going to be able to do it, and he does it. Oh, I love the way that looks. The big pile of parts.
It's ridiculous. It's so good. And then here's a great moment though. Some great lore building.
Yep. Yeah, yeah, and this is one of those things that we don't know now yet, and then
I
we'll learn
know.
more about is the Force took it out of him, and if you think about Last Jedi, Luke literally using the Force to do something
Yeah.
killed him, right?
It's so strong. Yep.
The in 50 years, if this little thing's been in a pod its whole life, that was probably the biggest Force event
It's ever most
right?
exertion.
So yeah, so it's pretty interesting the way that they put that together.
This is cool too because you got to think about it, Pete. How he kind of has a Han Solo mentality. This is gonna take forever. It's gonna take days. And Quill's like, not if you don't get started working. And like, how weird! This is so not Star Wars. Like an actual montage. This is probably the first time we ever got a legit montage of like fade in shots and fade out. There's one really cool one coming up too with Baby Yoda right here. The spark coming from him. Weird. It's so cool though.
Yeah, really,
not very Star Wars.
Really cool editing, and that might be Rick Fukuyama's approach that did that. But again, just cool shots, and that's why to me The Mandalorian is such a fan show, because these are the things that we did with our toys. These are the things that you had that story of working through a battle or whatever. And to see the ship come back together. And again, two questions come to mind. Is every ship in Star Wars completely beat to hell? And second question is, and it comes up again in episode 5, is do we not lock our ships in outer space? They don't have the hands-free key fob, I guess.
I didn't even think about that. That's so true though. Why are they able just to break in and just take everything they want?
Sure. And I thought for sure Khalil was going to get in the ship and go with him.
Me too. I was convinced because I just remember like thinking, well, that's going to make so much sense to have someone that knows how to use carbonite on the ship,
Yep. We figured it would subvert. And again, this was subverting expectations. Excuse me. In that, I thought for sure, I think everybody did that, based on the posters and based on what we knew going in, that he was going to build a crew. And these first 2 episodes, he's going to get Kuil. The next episode, he was going to get Kara, which he didn't even meet her next. Then he's going to get 11 or whatever. And so all those things that we expected.
Marketing is great. It's just so unexpected.
I just love. I have spoken. There it is.
I know. There it is. And like the way this episode wraps up, I mean, as a viewer, when I first saw it, I was thinking, well, he's going to have to go back and bring this thing to him. Maybe, I don't know. And like, you feel for the little guy, it's just at this point, you're watching it and you're like, what is going to happen? Like, he can't do it now. This thing has saved his life, the enemy has saved his life. Like the armorer says later, the enemy saved you. So good.
And what's cool too is that, again, the relationship between the Mandalorian and the child is now ingrained Star Wars lore, but at this moment, it still wasn't there. I mean, the love, I mean, let's face it, there's a love between him as a father and the child.
Oh yeah,
and it hadn't happened yet, and that's the way it was set up. It works so well in that regard, because this little bit right here that's about to come up, where he just kind of looks over at the child who's still sleeping, just beat up from emotionally or physically beat up from using the Force. He's just and there's
the music, dog. Give me chills.
The child snoring, you can see he's breathing, and no facial expression on the Mandalorian, because he's behind a mask, and you felt everything that happened in that moment. And you see
he's moving.
Starts to move, and it's so perfect.
Look at this, man. It's like, it's so weird. Like, it's gonna sound bad, but I'm gonna say it. I'm so happy the Skywalker saga is done because we can move on with this. You know what I mean? Like this is the next evolution of Star Wars in general. Like they
Yes.
wrapped up that big story, and they had to wrap up the big story that was been told for years. But dude, this is the story that will kick off, I guess, the next phase. I don't know, man. I still feel so lucky that we even got anything like this. Like it's such a big dream for us. Oh my god.
Yeah, and it's such a good episode, and you know, it's so
It is.
it's that was watching it again. I remember why it's one of my tops, but it's
Yeah.
interesting that I think we were all I think after the first episode, which was only what was it 32 minutes or something.
Yeah.
I think I fully expected the second episode to be 48 minutes or more,
Of course.
and it wasn't. And
Nope.
obviously, none of them are. And
Nope.
I think it actually works really well because you don't have. I think people expect live action adventure to be Game of Thrones length, or to be Breaking
Yep.
Bad length, or to be Ozark length. But these are actually, if you think about it, you could almost argue that these are more like Dave Filoni animation type shows, because
That's exactly what it is.
there's not you're not getting multiple character lines. This is about the Mandalorian. This follows his route. Now you could make it an hour if you had another character, if you were following somebody else.
Sure.
But I don't know. Where does this episode fall for you in all eight?
If I'm not mistaken, Jerry and I had spoken about it on one of the episodes. I think we had my cousin Troy on, and we talked about just kind of recap the whole first season. And pretty sure it's my second favorite. I don't know, might be my favorite. I don't remember, to be frank with you, but I can tell you this much. My favorite director of this is Rick Famuyiwa. It's just like this episode was amazing, and then the next one was the Prisoner. Was that the title of that one? My God, those are just so good and so unique for the overall first season. I mean, Deborah Chow had the difficult task of doing the next one, which I really can't wait to hear your coverage of that one. But like, still, it's intense to think that like this one is very, I don't know, like you said earlier, it's very silent. It's like a true Western. This one at least is like very Western compared to most of the other ones.
Yeah, like even like maybe even more like spaghetti Western, because there isn't a lot of talking in them. It lets the action tell the story, which says a lot about Rick as a director, because he did not need the overtones of the language and didn't need to tell you the story. He literally showed you the story, which again, I think this is part of the problem that people have had with Rise of Skywalker, and that they there was too much talk. We didn't see the things that set up the story.
Sure.
And they're nice. This set up the nice slow burn of season 1 of The Mandalorian.
And it is a slow burn, and it's as it should be, because your first season shouldn't be the super, like, I mean, it's not overwhelming at any point when you watch this show.
Right.
And like, I have a feeling the next season might be pretty intense if you're not caught up in the timeline and you're not aware of Rebels. You know, like I really am. It's going to be interesting to see how the reception is for very casual fans. You know, like my dad, for example. Whenever I talk to him about it, but it's funny because like this thing right here, literally, by the time this episode came out, Pete, I think I would have paid, and I'm not exaggerating, probably $250 for this. If someone's like, I have this, I'd be like, all right, I want to be the first person to have this, because the smartest thing they ever did, I think, for Star Wars was this, and the fact that they didn't make this, because this would have been leaked instantaneously. You know? It was just amazing.
It's amazing that it wasn't, and we'll we can talk about that real quick, because we had on this show, and I don't know, did you speak to Dominic Pace? Was he on Bombay Cast?
No, I haven't had the opportunity to talk with him yet. I'm looking forward to it.
That's the only show he wasn't on. Okay, it was Bombay. I'm just kidding, because he's
a good,
he's such a giver. He's such a great fan guy. You know what I mean? But
awesome.
But what was interesting about that was I'd spoken to him for months before Mandalorian came out, and he didn't know that the Mandalorian had this baby Yoda child. He knew that he had
Wow.
something. He knew he was protecting allegedly a child of some sort. But when they shot that scene in episode 3, he didn't know. They didn't know, which is amazing. Which speaks
That's
to how
insane.
they kept it so close to the belt. And you got to imagine that if it's the same crew, it's Favreau, it's Filoni, they kept the child secret,
Mhm.
protected that part of the story. I wonder what they have for us for the next one, because that's
Oh,
you
it's
know,
insane.
yeah, yeah. So
It's just like I feel so fortunate to even be able to talk about this because you know honestly, if Star Wars didn't get, if I didn't fall back in love with Star Wars in 2015 when The Force Awakens came out,
yeah,
I feel like anyone that's sleeping on Star Wars now is like really missing out. Like
yeah,
really, like this. If I had not fallen back in love with it, I think this would have been the thing that hooked me back in because it was adult, it was a great approach, and like you know, who said it in the chat? I'm pretty sure Framey said it's great for international audiences because it doesn't have to have language to explain what's going on, right? It doesn't need that.
yep.
It's what George always did well, which was just straight up visual storytelling. You just could watch it and you got it, and it was super important. I don't know.
Yeah, and you know it's interesting because I think almost, and that will be a challenge for the season 2 because I think
Yep.
almost this entire season you could watch with the sound turned down and sort
Yep.
of be able to follow what was happening,
Yep.
right? Um, so yeah, really interesting. Well, I'm glad everybody had fun watching
Yeah.
episode 2 with us. We had a blast watching it with you. I'm glad, Scott. I'm glad you were able to join us again. The 50th episode of the Bombad Cast is on its way. You guys are recording it this Sunday.
Yeah, this Sunday. So anyone in the chat, I know we got a good bit of people in the chat right now. Please, Pete, do you it's three? What is the number, Pete? You probably know it before I do.
3312 Beyond.
3312 Beyond. Y'all, please leave us a phone call. You will be featured on that episode. We kind of stole this idea from Pete. He did this for his 50th episode. So, hey, we're on a network now. I'm not stealing anything.
It's not stealing. We're all working together.
Shared idea. No, but please leave a voicemail. We got one from Andy already. I know Pete's going to send one soon. We got a great people actually showing up to send some cool voice memos. But yeah, that's gonna be a fun episode, dude. We're gonna talk about what it means to stay Bombad. I can't wait to hear. And cool. Andy told me it's kind of like saying "saw, brah," or like he said it's a lot like a "shaka, brah." You know, it's very surfer. I'm like, I guess it is. I don't know.
That's cool. Well, yeah. My somebody was telling me this, and it's kind of like sounds like something you'd say in the Caribbean, like when you're on vacation. It's like kind of a cool thing. Framey says the deadline is noon Sunday. That's
sure. Right? Yeah, and just phone the 3321 Beyond. Is that it, Pete? I feel like I keep saying it wrong.
Yeah, I'm going to let me look it up real quick just to make sure that I have it, because I would hate people to be calling some poor guy in like Minnesota is like, what's going on? Why are all these people telling me to stay Bombad? It sounds rude. It sounds what does Bombad mean? I don't care what Bombad means to you. It's 3312 Beyond. That's the official Beyond the Blast Doors phone number. You can leave us you can leave messages for Bombad Cast for this, or if you ever just want to call and leave a message for any of our shows, you can do that. And let's do a little commercial here. If you want to join us as a Patreon supporter, you can do that at $5, $12, $18, $30, and $50. Different perks for different levels. In fact, at the $12 level, we try to let you know what we have coming up in guests. We do our best. A lot of times, as you know, Scotty, the guest comes up last second and you don't really have a lot of time. But this past week, Seth Parnell was able to get a question in for the Mark Thompson interview that we on Around the Galaxy coming up on Tuesday. We spoke to Mark Thompson. If you listen to any of the any of the Star Wars audiobooks. He does most of them. And we had so much fun. He does. There's a video up right now on the Beyond the Blast Doors channel of him doing about 8 voices.
Oh, let me tell you all this, Pete. It's an amazing interview, and also I want to say this as well. Pete got Mark to talk in Thrawn's voice to do the new Beyond the Blast Doors and I guess Around the Galaxy intro.
Yeah.
That I literally when you sent me that clip, I was in the drive-through for Chick-fil-A, and I'm like, I gotta call everyone I know. So I literally I texted my mom, like, listen to how cool this is. She's like, I don't know what this is.
What
And I'm like, it's so cool.
Yeah, part of me,
I don't know.
it's
so good.
he is Thrawn to me, and so
Yep.
and in fact, I tell a little story on the show with him. I think it was either before, hopefully it was during the show, where I told him that I was going to be reading the 3rd book in the Thrawn series, and I picked up the book. I was going to read it on the plane. I was headed to LA for a meeting, and and I started reading it, and I was like, no, I got to do the audio version. I got to have Mark do it. I can't do it. So, but that's great. The other thing is we're looking for YouTube followers. We are at 4,000. When we get to 5,000, we are going to give away this bad boy. This totally awesome. What is it? 1986. But no, this amazing helmet. When we hit 5,000, we're going to do a special show, and we're going to have somebody win a Black Series Darth Vader helmet. I have one myself, and you should have one too.
Dude, it's the coolest thing because it does it like literally what it does in the movie. It's got the neck brace part, then the helmet part, and then the thing that the actual hood goes on, right?
Yeah,
that is
that's got the collar, the face piece, and then the helmet itself.
That's great. I hopefully I'm gonna get my hands on it. I'm gonna finally subscribe. I've been waiting, until I showed up. So now I'm gonna do it.
That's awesome.
Oh,
well,
man.
Scotty, anything you want to add? Anything to say before we call it a night?
Hey, for anyone that watches Bombad Cast, make sure you get your voice memo. A voice memo is one of the ones you record on your phone. You can DM me on Twitter. But not really anything crazy. Just want everyone to stay Bombad, okay? And look forward to the 50th episode.
Awesome. Yeah, so I'll definitely be looking forward to that. And all right, everybody. Well, next week, I think David will be back next week, and we'll do episode 3. Scotty, thank you so much for joining us today. This was a great way to go. This was a lot of fun. And we will see you all next week on Streaming Star Wars.
Put the mic down. Stop grabbing the mic.